There's no comparison in overall audio quality, both transmit and receive, between the Kenwood, starting with the 870s and then the 950s and the 950 SDXs on sideband, what some of the guys are doing with the Voodoo mods and such. And the 990 and even the 890 now into the SDR realm still can be made sound quite good. I'm very happy. I have done 0 alterations in my audio settings. This is my standard sideband setting. I don't know how it sounds on AM. By the way, it looks like 155 carrier modulating to a little over 700. I'm seeing peaks of about 120, positive peaks, negative peaks running around 95. And so I could probably back off a little bit. You tell me if modulation sounds acceptable. Looks, at least on the metering here, looks acceptable. I've done 0 alterations on the EQ. By the way, I am home with a head cold, so take that into consideration. Yesterday I felt it coming on, and so today I've been playing on the radio all day. Working some DX on 10. 10 was wide open to Europe, which was awesome. And making some contacts on 10 meters. Had a little bit of an RFI issue on my external studio monitor that I used for my external speaker on the 990 and put a ferrite core, only on 10 meters with the amplifier on, and put a little ferrite core around the audio input lead to the speaker, and it seems like that solved most of the issue. Anyways, I'm making a recording here as well. I'll send to you. You sound marvelous. I can't do Bill Salerno's voice, but you sound marvelous. VE6CQ, KJ7E.
It's the pause that refreshes. KJ7E in the Sunshine State. Is it sunshine down there? I think you're sunshine, or is that Florida? I wouldn't want to move you like that. KJ7E down in KNX land, Victor Echo 6 Charlie Quebec. Of course, for years and years, just so you know, it was always KFI Radio 64 in Los Angeles that would be heard up in Western Canada, but they've had their trials and tribulations. By the way, the chief engineer of that radio station is a ham that I've known for many years, but I haven't talked to him in a long time. And we got together and we started working AM. He was the chief engineer for several decades at KFI Los Angeles, Marv Collins. And he's an active ham, but I don't know if he's down in he's down in the Los Angeles area, and he always used to trip me up with his location. Oh yeah, it's Kenyatta, El Kenyatta or something. It looks like Canada, but it's pronounced Kenyatta, California. And we had many conversations about everything to do with AM, because I was very much intoxicated with the sound of KFI from about 1985 to 1991, in that range there. And they were using the same processing equipment that you have on board now. And the brown beasts are always good, and I prefer them over the digital boxes. I just do. I don't think that they're louder, but I think whatever it is that they do, they sound better on the air. And it's also the same way I feel about FM processing. FM radio back in the early 80s when the 8100 Optimods came out with that nice yellow front panel. The sound was just incredible. Again, they weren't the loudest signal on the air, but they were the nicest sounding. They just had a cohesiveness to the audio, and the element to element flow was just so consistent. It was almost magical to listen to. And of course, as we get into the car now and turn on Sirius XM and listen to the stuff that they call, state-of-the-art technology, it's pretty sad. I mean, it's from what I hear, what my ears tell me, it just is like a really bad MP3 is what Sirius XM is. It's very poor encoding And I know what they're trying to do. They're just trying to deliver more content. So they're tightening up the windows and shortening up the bit space. But at a certain point, as we're building the best receivers possible in vehicles now, with the highest fidelity, we have the poorest quality being sent from the source and being, well, let's rephrase that. It isn't the poorest quality. It's probably very high quality at the source, but somehow it's getting minced down and oversampled up in order to give us the Canadian speak French channel and the Portuguese channel and the Berlit speak book channel. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I just, it's the ears. It's always ears. You sound good, and I'm listening very closely. I'm on analog 950, so it's not perfect, but it's old, and it seems to be doing fairly well. Your audio is great, and I'll tell you what, it's modulating very well. It has very good modulation quality. It's not as, I'm going to guess it's about 4. I'm going to look next time. I'll bring up the pan adapter and have a look at what the transmit bandwidth is. This is AM, and you can move your elbows out a bit more, but I don't think you can. And I think it's a limitation of some of the rigs of that ilk that you can't really, but you don't really need it. But it is better than the Yaesu was. It is better than the Yaesu. But it's well modulated. And I think you're getting more modulation capacity out of this rig than you were on the Yaesu. Correct me if I'm wrong. Your modulation index, your modulating capability is higher on the Kenwood than it was on the Yaesu, and it may have to do with the digitization of the signals and keeping everything at 100%. I don't know. But it sounds very good. And the front panel of that rig is just to die for. Just pan across the front of the 990 as you take your video and look at the quality. And it's not crammed, it's not jammed. 2 independent receivers, and yet there's an analog feel to the radio. And even on the air, when I hear it, I know it's a quasi-digital rig. It has more of an analog sound than the 890. The 890 is just, they've turned the page and gone full digital. And anytime I hear full digital, it's not always great. Other than the Annan stuff I hear, the Annan and some of the guys who know how to set up the flexes, they can do a great job. But from the boxed radios, the Yaesus and the Kenwoods and the Icom SDR radios on AM, I don't know. And I'm just going to leave you with one other thought here. The best sounding rig at 3 kilohertz of audio today is the Icom 7300. I don't care whether you have an Annan, a Flex, a Hilberling, a 990. There is no transceiver at 3 kilohertz of audio that sounds better than a 7300 on sideband with a stock microphone that's set up properly in the menu system. You can take that to the bank. That's what I hear. And it is easier to make it sound good than any of the other radios that are out there today. So I'm a big fan of what Icom has done in the 7610 and the 7300 in terms of single sideband audio. It is extraordinary. Leaps in front of Yaesu. And the signal coming out of the transmitters is much more controlled from the Icoms. For whatever reason, the Yaesus were good, but they were very spiky. And even to look at the waveform on the scope, you could hear it, but you could also see it. It had these kind of really spiky waveforms. And it's almost as if, and another processing friend of mine who is into radio like I am, he said the same thing. It's almost as if somebody's figured out at Icom how to code And they've almost given a commercial broadcast processing sound to the 7300. It sounds like you're running a very expensive, purpose-driven audio processor on the front end of those rigs. So that's where I'm coming from. Let's hear some more of the 990, and I'll take a close look as to what I'm seeing, but it sounds great. No distortion. There's no RF. It's great. You might just give me the rest of the processing setup that's in front of the 9100, and I think you're using an RE20 or something like that. Maybe a condenser mic, I don't know, but fill me in on those details. KJ7E, Victor Echo 6, Charlie, Quebec, in the Canadian Rockies on the heritage mode of amplitude modulation.
VE6CQ, KJ7E.